Welcome to Lesson 8 of the Learning Together series. What we're going to do is create a new column in our data frame using a few different methods. We're going to use the mutate function, cbind function, rep or repeat function, and if-else function to create new columns. Once we do that, we're going to combine some columns together using the str_c function, remove a column using the select function, and rename a column using the rename function. So the first thing we're going to do is use the mutate function. What I did was rewrite on the dataset penguins, and I'm using the mutate function. I'm saying that we're in the dataset penguins, and the new column I'm creating is called body mass kg. And the way we get from grams to kilograms is by dividing by 1,000. So I'm taking an existing column, body mass G, and by dividing it by 1,000, it will give us what body mass kilograms is. So let's view this. Alright, and we see it right here, and we still see our old column. Alright, so now let's use the cbind function. What we're doing is creating a new column called ID, and what I want is for each of the 332 penguins to have a unique number. So what I'm doing is cbind, which is going to make all these numbers go vertically in a column, 1 to 332. So let's see that. So now we have the ID from 1 to 332. Alright, now let's create a new column using the RVP or repeat function. So all these penguin species are in the same genus, which is right here. But I don't want to type this word 332 times. So instead, I'm just going to repeat this word using the repeat function or RVF. Make sure this is in quotation marks, and I want this to be repeated 332 times. So now let's see it. And now we have the genus. Now we're going to use the if-else function. So this is called a nested if-else function because I'm using it twice. So what I'm doing is creating a new column called SPP, which is short for species. And what I'm saying is in my species column in the penguin's data frame, when it's the Adelie penguin, I want it to be its scientific species name. And then I'm doing the same function, if else, and looking at the species column. If it's Gentoo, I want it to be its scientific species name. And then everything else, so everything other than Adelie and Gentoo, so that leaves us chinstrap, would be called its scientific name. So let's run that. And now we see the species name here, and we can see how it changes once we get to the different species. Alright, now let's combine the genus and species columns together. Alright, so what we're doing is creating a new column called genus_species. We're using the str_c function, and the columns we're combining is the genus column with a space in between and the species column. So let's see it. And this is what we have, the genus_species column, and we can tell that between the genus and the species name is a space. Now let's remove columns using the select function. So what this is doing is rewriting on the penguin's data frame. We're using the select function. We're saying we're in the penguin's data frame. And the minus sign basically means to not include it or to remove it. So we're not including genus and we're not including species. So let's run this. And now we see that those two columns are gone because we replaced it with the genus_species column. And then lastly, let's rename that column using the rename function. We're rewriting on the penguin's data set. We're using the rename function in the penguin's data set. Our new name will be called scientific name, and what it's replacing is genus_species. So let's run that. And now we see it's called scientific name. Right, for today's recap for Lesson 8, we created new columns using several different functions. The ones we went over today was mutate, cbind, rep, and if-else. We combined two columns to create a third column using the str_c function. We remove old columns using the select function. Don't forget the minus sign in front of the columns you're trying to remove. And then lastly, we use the rename function to rename a column. Alright, hope you learned something new, and happy coding!